Live.
We're doing it straight up. Welcome everybody.
I was
We're
getting
here with
flashbacks
Dominic
to New Year's Eve.
Fortuna.
Mhm.
Dominic is the dawn of the Michigan music scene in several ways. Um, Lovely artist, great writer. We're probably going to be mostly discussing his work, Walk Slowly with Purpose, and his process, which probably the process of that. I've always kind of felt, Dominic, correct me if I'm wrong. This isn't our normal first question, but I'm just going to kick it off like right off the bat and just say, do you think that like the writing of a song is often, for most artists, not necessarily all, but for most artists, it seems like the writing of a song is kind of a quick thing. It doesn't take a long time to do versus when you sit down and even if you're just writing a novella or a short story or whatever, there's a longer process there. Is that a correct assumption or am I speaking
Yes.
wrongly there?
Bullseye. Right on.
Okay.
Yeah. When you get that moment of inspiration writing a song, you're in touch. You're like into it's like God finally picked up the phone. He was on hold. And you're like, man,
Yep.
I only got him online for this long. Okay, so let's write this song. you know,
Mhm.
and then when you're writing, when I'm writing for the newspaper, or I'm writing any other piece. When I'm writing, I find myself I have to prepare myself more as a person for the day before I write,
Hmm.
and I have to prepare my setting a little better.
Yeah, yeah.
So I
Yeah, I
could write
get
a
that.
song on a napkin in a bar.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and that kind of harkens back to what Carrie said, does it not, Joey? When Carrie mentioned the kind of the routine, with the writing process that which she found stopped people was that they create a routine around it.
Yeah, to set it, I'm gonna start writing at 8 a.m. and I'm gonna write for an hour or 30
Mhm.
minutes or whatever. Like that's
Mhm.
your time to write, and
Yeah,
you just have to make that your time.
yeah,
And if you want
Yeah,
to take your job seriously, and I agree with her that you should set a certain amount of time, even if it's only 30 minutes.
yeah, yeah.
Like I was
yeah.
talking with you, Jay, and you were all like, "Oh, it's I got a really rough draft, that I've been working on." Okay, well, you know what? That's better than no draft, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I agree with you. Once you get going, once
yeah.
I get going on something, I'm like, God, I'm glad I did this. Like I'm
Mhm.
gonna be like, oh God, I'm sitting on the couch. Am I gonna write this now? I gotta have a deadline, and my editor's like, hey, you got it done, blah blah. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, I better do this. I start it, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I'm into
Mhm.
Yeah.
this. Oh, I'm so glad I took the moment.
Mhm.
Nice. I
Yeah.
like that. And so if we could just meander down that rabbit hole with just one more quick question on that topic. Just since you what you said was right in the wheelhouse of the editor that we had on, who suggests to do exactly what you did. Um, do you use anything in the sensory, like any specific sensory things in your writing area? Like, do you have like a candle or a special
No,
pen or
I
something?
don't. Usually I just use one of my devices, like my phone or my iPad, and then I write. I
Right.
do I do know that like I won't go back and reread for a while. Like a lot of
Mhm.
writers will reread a paragraph and then go through it again. I won't reread till later
Okay.
because there might be more I want to change. If I give it a little break, and that's not always that I do change stuff, but I know my sensories are connected, and I think Joey and I talked about this. It's connected to my emotions. Like if I start getting a little sappy eyed while I'm writing something, I know I'm onto something.
Mhm.
As soon
Right.
as
Right.
I start getting a little weepy, no matter what, even
Mhm.
if it's sad, happy, or whatever, it doesn't have. It's not what I'm writing. It's like it's not so much the emotion of what I'm writing about. It's the emotion that I feel that I'm hitting the bullseye.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Oh,
Mhm.
I'm in the sweet spot right now, and I know
Yeah.
I'm kind of
Yeah.
Kate, just kind of hammock in there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just keep writing as long as you can, sitting in that sweet spot, and then let it go and go, oh God, I made it. And get off the hammock and
Yeah.
then go back and read it and cry again at the end and go, okay, send it to the editor.
Well, or
Mhm.
even they can even frustrate you. My pro tag right now is kind of refusing to pro tag, and so I'm like annoyed. And I'm like, dude, like we need some action out of you. Like, can you please stop being so such a you know, he's almost like procrastinating, you know, like that's what's coming out of my head. And it's like, why is this going on? It's funny the
You know,
connections that we can
it,
establish.
it kind of connects in a way. I don't mean to take it this time, but just real quickly, it kind of
Yeah,
connects in
yeah.
a way. You know, I started this years ago. I could say like 25 years ago. I started fixing my bed every morning. Started making my bed, and it really truly works for me. It gets me into a an affirmation cycle,
Okay.
and there's nothing better than telling a person affirmations. But when you start telling yourself them with and anonymously by just doing deeds and affirming that it's happening. Wow, I brushed my teeth. Wow, I made it to the shower. Wow, I fixed my bed. Wow, I shoveled the driveway. You
Mhm.
know, and these affirmations put me into a nice place where I'm like, ah, you know, now I'm there. I really
Mhm.
Mhm,
like where I'm at. That's kind of the way I like to be when I'm writing too. I like to get
mhm.
into that type of that mode.
Yeah. I guess some people in other realms often call it the flow state. That's if they want to umbrella term everything, right? So
Yeah.
for those who are listening, he's talking about the flow state, just a little
Right.
more with
Well,
a little more eloquence than the modern 140 characters or less thing.
right. Getting
Joey, over to you.
getting into the zone. That's what I
Yeah.
call it.
The
The
Get
zone.
in
zone,
the
yeah, the
zone.
zone
The
too,
zone.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well,
Uh,
you Paisan, it's probably the zone for you because you like everything with a Z in it, I guess.
right.
I don't know.
Yeah, we can go 0 to 100 in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, for sure. Dominic, I want to talk about your book, Walk Slowly with Purpose. It's available on Amazon in paperback and then on Kindle and Kindle Unlimited for people that have that. Paperback is 9.95. I read it on Kindle and I really enjoyed it. I gave you, I think 4.4, 4.5 out of 5 stars, right?
Thank you.
So that's pretty high. Think about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're up, you're up there with some of my favorite authors, C.S. Lewis and stuff like that. So,
Thanks, Joey.
uh, the book, I want you to tell us about it without going into how it ends, because I want people to, you know,
Yeah.
be. But I also want to know who your favorite character is in that book. So go ahead, tell us about the book, and then who's your favorite character out of all of those characters?
Okay. Well, the book is a short book, but
Hmm.
it's to the point. If I get to this before I tell you a little bit about it,
Hmm.
most of my colleagues and friends and people and listeners and people that have read it have the reason why they have taken some stars away or said, "Hey, Dom, this is the weak spot in the book is actually the forte that it's going to become. It's
Hmm.
short, and each chapter is short and to the point because the book was originally written to become a play.
Right.
So I wanted to leave room and openings for each chapter to be. Now, the book itself is about a man who went through a hard time in life. He was an athlete. He had an unfortunate injury at a young age, and he had to quit his career as an athlete that he put all his time and effort into.
Hmm.
Was at the bottom of the rung on the ladder when it came to his romantic life and his wife, and so to make that part of the story short, he ended up trying to end his life. If that's what it looks like in the book, if that's how you take it, that's not what I
Sure.
wrote, but some people say it looks like it. And
Right.
he
Kind of
finds
like It's a Wonderful Life kind of thing.
exactly,
Okay. All
exactly,
right. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah, right on, man. That's one of my favorite movies.
Right.
And so what
Uh,
happened was when he finally reaches out for help, he ends up in this unconscious conscious state and is introduced to several different spiritual avengers in a place called Here and Now
mhm.
that are animals. And
Mhm.
each one of these animals are going to teach our character Gary
Mhm.
how to become a spiritual avenger like them. So he travels through a whole journey in the here and now to learn about certain parts of his life and how to find himself in a state of walking slowly with a purpose so that he can find himself in that place. My
Mhm.
favorite character is Barney.
Okay, the bear.
Yeah, the bear. Barney's my
Mhm.
favorite character. Barney kind
Yep.
of carries it.
Mhm.
Once it becomes a play, Barney and the tree, the great tree, will
Mhm.
both become main characters within it will be pushed a little further.
Nice. Hey, so you spoke about so Gary, who's the main character, the human in the story,
Mhm.
um, he goes to the here and now, and I thought, you know what? I don't know if you meant this or if it went into a deeper meaning or you just called it here and now, but that's very Buddhist, you know. So it's like because Buddhists really forget about the past, don't think about the future. It's all about the here and now. Is
Mhm.
that when you wrote it, the kind of thing you wanted to, the vibe you wanted to give off, or did it just happen that way?
That's
'Cause
good
that's
you
what I
picked that
took
up.
it.
Yeah, that's good you picked it up
I'm a
because
smart guy sometimes, you
yeah,
know.
you know, I'm influenced by a bunch of theologies. You know, I mean,
Okay.
I don't. I mean, I have my own personal deep-seated beliefs that can teeter every once in a while, like
Hmm.
all of us.
Right.
But I've faced all of the. So I kind of pull in this book from everywhere.
Hmm.
So yes, you're right. To answer your
Okay.
question, yes.
Well, I compared the book. If people want a comparison, sometimes like, what's it like? I kind of compared it to Jonathan Livingston Seagull and the five people you meet in heaven. I kind of put those two together, and then this is.
It's true. He's been talking about John Livingston Seagull ever since he picked up your book, Dominic.
One of the
I
Yeah,
can.
first
I
books I
read your
ever.
book, and it was like the first thing. I was like, oh my god, you know.
He was one of my first authors I ever read.
Uh huh.
Yeah,
Him and J.R. Tolkien. Yeah,
yeah.
I think
yeah, and
Richard
Khalil
Bach
Gibran.
is
Khalil Gibran.
underrated for
Yeah,
sure.
Khalil
You know,
Did you?
Gibran. J.R. Tolkien and Jonathan Livingston Seagull. I mean, the book Illusions was huge. I was only like 10 and I was reading
hmm
Illusions. I was so into it.
Yeah,
hmm
Yeah.
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, you
It's
you use the word in your
Stoicism's
he
great.
used the word in his book, Jay, and I've heard the word, but I've never read the word. So when I saw it, you know, it's like when you see a word for the very first time that you've heard before. I don't know. It was weird. It made me stop in my tracks when I looked at it, and it was the word kaput.
Oh yeah,
You know, like I actually had to pause because I was like, "Is that how you spell that?" I don't know because I've never seen
My
it
first
before.
girlfriend was German.
Uh, okay.
Kaput.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that word
kaput.
stood out to me for
It's a
some
slang.
reason. Yeah.
yeah. Did you italicize it?
No, it was just regular. It was just in there. It was in the as he was
And
talking.
I'm sure
Yeah,
my editor that edited that from London, and she I'm sure she just because it's European term. I mean, they probably use it more over there than we do.
Yeah,
yeah. Oh yeah,
that
yeah,
stood
yeah.
out to me.
Definitely, certainly. Yeah. Well, it's a clever word. That like kaput's moxie. Moxie's another one that feels a lot like that, right? Like
Mhm.
it's an uncomplicated word that has a very clear and precise meaning to everyone the moment they hear it, right?
Mhm.
You don't actually need the definition to know. You can tell by the sound of it. Moxie, like it's good. It's
Yeah,
buzzy,
the
you know.
content,
Like,
and then the content too. You can pick stuff up. You
Yeah,
yeah,
know,
that's
if
true.
you're
yeah,
not sure
yeah.
what a word is. You know,
Yeah,
hey, you said something in the intro of your book. Says life is an inside job. Could you go deeper into that for us?
Yeah, I mean, that's a that's a universe. That's a universe of time of work for a human.
Mm.
Because it's insatiable. It's just infinity. You
Mhm.
go inside yourself. There was a book I read recently, The Untethered Soul.
Mm.
Um, Singer was the author. He explains it well. He explains it real well how that we on the inside are a combination of all of our experiences. But
Mhm.
there's really something past that. We are
mhm,
past that. We are actually observing all those experiences even deeper within ourselves.
Right.
So, in order to be able to do that, to live an inside job, you have to be able to recognize that. Because
Mhm.
once you
yeah,
recognize that and you affirm it and you tune to it, then your conscious, that person who you are inside, starts making decisions before you actually physically make them as a human in living.
Mhm.
hmm yeah. What?
And,
What?
and,
What?
and sometimes you
Uh,
deny it, but that's that feeling you get when you're like, oh God, it's a weird feeling in my gut. I probably shouldn't have done that, or I should have done that.
Right.
yeah.
That's
What?
that
What
inside
Carl?
job going on.
What Carl Jung would have called the healthy ego, basically,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. The
Mhm.
healthy ego.
It's like you can't have no ego. No ego means you're not eating, sleeping,
Yeah.
walking, drinking water. But healthy ego is
Mhm.
akin to that
That's
float state, right?
yeah, that's where I have if I can go off on a little tangent. That's where I've got,
Yeah, yeah.
I've read a lot of books and I've been into a lot of theology, like I said, but that's where I've got a beef with the 12-step programs. Like I've read some of their stuff and
Mhm.
looking at it, I'm thinking to myself, okay, so how can you be able to tell people how to live on their insides, but yet an outside job around them is so intense. How are they going to find it? How are they going to find that? Like, you know, and they initially started it, the program, you see that in the beginning of my book, I talk about a 12-step program there, that they initially founded the 12-step program through an Oxford group out of England, the Oxford group out of England. And, you know, in order to heal yourself from the inside out, you have to be able to take care of what's on the outside and shut it down. In other words, it can just be an experience. That's all it needs to be.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't need to be you. It doesn't need to name you, be you. None of that. It's not you. You're observing it. In order to defeat all that out there, you got to be able to strengthen what's going on the inside. Those are the affirmations. That's fixing the bed. That's anonymous. It's in my book. That's anonymous givings. It's, you know, it's stuff that we should do for ourselves, that we do for other people too. That gets us that. I mean, that's what that whole program's based on. If I understand it right. I mean, I think. You know,
I think so. I think so. I think a lot of it is sort of very clumsy, trying to reprogram the brain in such a linear way that it doesn't touch your soul at all. And I think that's the failure of it, right? Like, I just wanted to quickly say hi to the Plant Arc and Marianne.
Hi, Marianne.
And K-Power for joining us. K-Power says, wow, Paisano Central.
Right.
And hey, Plant Arc says, my grandfather told me to always keep a thesaurus. It makes learning words fun and better organized. That's a good.
That. Me
that's
too.
a good strategy.
And you know
that's
what?
very game theater, Eric.
A good
Now,
in the 21st century, it would just be highlight shift F7.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's right.
Hey, you know, real quick, just to end on that whole ego thing, you know, you need a little bit. You got to have a little bit. If you don't have a little bit of ego, what the hell are we here? I mean, like, come on. What are you going to... I've seen people shut down.
But you got to back it up a little, too. You know, you can't just...
Well, I don't mean that kind of ego, Joey. Joey, I don't mean that kind of ego. I mean ego in the sense like I'm a huge fisherman. Love to fish. When I go out fishing with a bunch of my buddies...
I ain't never fished.
I want to catch the biggest fish. Because I love it. It's like a little competition, man. Who's going to catch the biggest fish, you know? And then we joke around, and whoever catches the biggest fish, we joke around and play with them. Hey, we caught the biggest fish. That's a little bit of ego left. That's a little bit of fun ego left, you know? It's not like, I really want you to catch the biggest fish because I'm not worthy to catch the biggest fish. You should catch it, and I'll praise you for it. You know, I mean, like...
I dare you to find an animal in the jungle that doesn't have an ego.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. They're all doing an ego thing. Like, what's a peacock besides super ego superimposed onto real life in stark color, right? Like, that's okay. So no, I want to wrap that up, and I'm gonna do it with a quote, and I'm gonna do the quotes out of chronological order. We're supposed to do this at the end of the episode, but I'm gonna drop mine in right now, and it is by the great Long John Baldry, and that is, you can live in your head or you can live in your heart. But if you don't live it all, then why the hell did you start?
Yeah, I like it.
Heavy.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. All right. So now let's get on to the journeyman type of stuff, Dominic. Did you take a look at anything like your neck of the woods, the Chicago Manual of Style, as far as writing goes? Like, did you read anything about how you wanted to fashion your narrative?
No, not at all. Don't research anybody. Don't research any writers. Don't read any books when I'm writing. Don't like any kind of influence. I like just what comes raw from me and my little antenna that's sticking up into the heavens. I like to pick it up from there. My editor for my newspaper's been my editor now for about 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
And I had a different editor before that because I've been writing for this paper for about 10 years. And she told me, don't ever change your style. She goes, it's a little It's a little wacky and crazy at times, but don't ever change it. She goes, I'm not going to touch it. She goes, I like that. And, you know, and I know, because sometimes I'll read it and go, what the hell was I doing? You know, but then I'll look at the style. I'm like, no, I'm going to leave it like that. Because if you might have to go back and reread it again, but they're like, oh, I know exactly what he was saying there. God, I like the way he put that. I mean, you know. So.
Yeah.
But Dominic, you know, you aren't just an author. You do all sorts of stuff. What are you doing now? Because you're promoting stuff on your page. So let's talk about that for a second.
Well, I'm a solo artist right now. I'm playing keyboards and singing all over the place. I'm everywhere. That's basically, I've been a singer since I was a little kid, professional singer. I went on Broadway for a while, worked on Broadway, did a lot of national tours. I was
What'd you do on Broadway? I'm gonna stop you. What'd you
I
do
played
on Broadway?
Grease on Broadway.
Ooh,
Yeah,
and
I was Vince
what was your
Fontaine.
part? Oh, Vince Fontaine.
I did Catch Me If You Can on nationals.
Can you give us a little Vince Fontaine right now?
Hey, then you're all you crazy cats out there in Radio Land, Vince Fontaine, better known as Dr. Groove, the DJ on the move.
You got a way better radio voice than I do, that's for sure. And we're back. Okay, go ahead. What else are you doing?
Yeah, well, I was just recently on the island of Mauritius, where there's a really nice theater there at the North Shore of it, up in Port St. Louis, and I was meeting with some of the theater owners on my book because I've been trying to turn it into a play. That's how I initially contacted you. I wanted to see if I could find a good playwright that could help me. Well, I found a playwright in Mauritius. He's working on it right now. He's trying to make it a little more compact. So hopefully Walk Slowly with Purpose will be a play soon. I'd like to do it here in the States too. It's just so rich. I know you read it. It's very rich for that. Because I had that in mind before I wrote it. You know, so it's not like one of those things where it was like somebody writes a book and then it turns into a movie because they thought it should be a great movie. You know, it's like.
But to have a play, think of the costumes that people are going to have. You know?
Well, you go with the puppets. You know, we could do it with puppets and just have a couple of live actors, which could help in budget wise too, depending on how you're going to do your production. But there's ways to do it. You know, it's just called good acting. I mean, you don't really, you know, there's ways to make brilliant stuff happen on stage without a lot of money and without a lot of bells and whistles, a lot of banging around and stuff. You can really do cool stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there's guys out there that I don't know how to do it, but there's guys out there that are genius when it comes to that stuff. They'll make you disappear on stage, you know, and you're like, what
yeah. I mean, look what they do with HMS Pinafore, right? Like it's unbelievable, right? Yeah. Make sure, Dominic, that if you end up going national with that or anything like that, when it comes time, get your agent to reach out, because I do have connections in the Calgary theater. See, my cousin's really a very integral part. So
I've already considered you for Peter in my play. Yeah, you're going to be Peter.
Lois.
Did you read the book yet, Jay? Do you know who Peter is?
I haven't. No.
All right. Well, I won't tell you.
I'm sorry.
Make them read it. Make them
read
it.
Yeah, you'll find out who Peter is. You'll be proud to be Peter.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Excellent. I mean, Peters are great people. I've known a few good ones. They're definitely better than Kyle's. And you know, if I'm to draw an analogy, I'd rather be a Peter than a Kyle.
You'd be a good Billy the Bobcat too, but you got to have one blue eye and one green eye.
Well, my eyes do change colors because I have an albinism, so sometimes they're green, sometimes they're blue, but they're usually the same color at the same time.
Billy's is the best because in the book, Billy takes Gary through there. They went from here to there, and when they're in the there, it's scary because there's all these different creatures you've never seen before. There's the river of dreams that they have to cross. And, you know that they meet they meet all kinds of characters there, and Billy's the one that keeps him on the path. Make sure he doesn't eat any peyote buttons or
down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, exactly.
Down the rabbit hole. That's the channel we're on right now, actually. The Writers Lounge doesn't have enough followers yet to do lives, so the lives are on the Rabbit Hole Guild. And that's what the rabbit hole is, man.
So like and subscribe to the Writers Lounge so we can start.
But head over to the Writers Lounge, and the link will be in the comments. And Dominic, while we're on the topic, like what what are all the ways that people could kind of interact with you and network with you online? What are the things that you're doing that way?
I'm on Instagram at Dominic Hope Lives Here. Facebook Dominic Fortuna or Dominic Entertainment. I love, if you message me, be ready to have a long conversation usually initially right off the bat. So I'm not gonna be like, hey, what's up? It's going to be like, if you had messaged me, you took the time to find me, I'm going to take the time to say, hey, what's up? Where you at? So I do that even on stage. If people come up when I'm playing, if they've seen me before and they want to come up and talk, I'll take a couple minutes and just and spend time with them. I appreciate it. This is what I do. So I like
very
people.
much reminds me of my that reminds me of my uncle Stan. He was he was a Neil Diamond, like he went around the world doing Neil Diamond really, really well. And he was always like that too. He was like the type of guy where like 1:30 in the morning, the place is empty, the casino that he played at is empty or whatever. And he's in the back room drinking coffee, talking to a chef at like 1:30 in the morning, just about life, right? Like that would be his gig, right?
That's it, man. The here and now.
Yeah.
Right.
In the moment.
In the moment.
Have you ever read Robert Pirsig's work, like Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance?
I have.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. I feel, and I never like to say this to people in so many words, but I almost felt the inspiration of that, in the way that you kind of talk about life. So
Slowly.
I mean, I don't like to falsely attribute things like that, but that's why I mention it.
Yeah.
And did you follow along to Leela too?
Sorry?
Did you also read Leela after that?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you really must.
I was in high school. I read all these books. It was like, I think, how do I explain this? This is how I am as an actor too. And a lot of the directors I've worked with, especially one in particular, was really appreciative of this because I'm kind of unorthodox in this sense. He didn't know many that did this. If I land a role, I basically, or if I'm auditioning for a role, or if I'm writing something, I only take just what I need to know about it, just the basics, and I kind of shelter myself away from everything, all the influences that had influenced me all my life. I try to stay away from them, and then I go into the mode, and then I do what I need to do, because I'm a real good antenna. Like I can get easily distracted and change what my initial vision is. I might burst into another vision, do another vision, and then a bigger vision, which is fine in a slow walk right or a slow walk performance, that you're doing like I'm doing with the play right now. But initially off the top, I like to, like I just did a story about a guy here in town, in my local town that I write for the paper, who is opening a studio for kids. It's a great, he's just, this guy's got enough money and he bought this place or he's renting it from a church and he's all these rooms. He's doing different lessons for the kids. Well, I didn't really go over even look at it. I didn't. All I said was, I just want to know what you're doing. And I let him write all the mechanical nuts and bolts stuff. And then I put in there about how when we, I went into it because I didn't get this from anybody else. This is what I felt when he told me, was that, we all reach a certain age and we become teachers no matter what. And if you don't have that drive in you, then you're not living it, man. It's like you're going to teach them something, whether by attraction, not promoting. If you don't have to promote anything unless they come to you. By attraction, you're going to do it mainly. When you hit 40 years old, whatever you've done all your life, whatever it might be, you're going to start teaching who's behind you. If you don't, then, I'm sorry, you're missing out. I'm probably one of the major gifts of, and that's what I wrote about. But I didn't need anybody to tell me that. Now there's probably a bunch of that out there about what that guy's doing. There's probably a bunch of feel good stuff about, oh, this guy's doing this and this is yeah, okay. I could have researched like a good boy and went and researched all about what it makes you feel like and did that black and white mechanical stuff on it. But no, I want to go inside and I want to, why is he doing it? What's the goal? What are you getting from it? What are they getting from it? before, those are the questions I ask myself before I write it, you know. And
Yeah.
then when I follow that rabbit hole and I go down, I get
Yeah.
to the very core of the human.
Mm.
I move everything aside and I go, oh, and I get a wet eye. And I'm like, yeah, this
Yeah.
guy is doing it because that's who he is. And those people are coming because they want that from him, you know, and
Mhm.
that's
Right.
life, you know, in a little small community like that. He's creating artists.
You're right. That deep-seated curiosity. About 800 years ago, um, kind of before the English language changed to the way it is now, the word naive meant something totally different. And it's kind of what you're saying. That was what naive meant. It was more like an artistic sensibility than now we hear the word and we think it's calling me ignorant. It's calling me a dumbass. It's never what it was intended to mean at all. And there's just obfuscation of language, but the naivete, as they would say, was the ability for the artist to be so curious about the world and the people around them, and to have such a deep empathy for everything around them, that then they plug in, and then there's electricity, right? Then it's just flowing in and flowing out, right?
You're
So
reading my
there's a,
mail. You're reading my mail, as to put it. That's exactly it. That's
yeah,
it right
yeah,
there. I call it,
yeah,
Joey and I were talking about it the other day. I call it immaturity.
Mhm.
Excuse me.
yeah,
Whenever I work with an artist as a director, or if I'm writing, I told this guy that. As a matter of fact, the guy that I wrote, I said, look, I want you to just throw it out there. Be as immature as you can.
Mhm.
Strong but wrong. Just give it to me,
Mhm.
and then let me mold it. You know,
Right.
that's that
mm,
whole naivety that you're talking about. That's it. That's that come to it that way. And some people
mhm,
might call it humble, whatever. You know,
yeah,
humble.
yeah. Like
Humble.
a deep seated curiosity that runs just down to the sub basement of your soul, and then
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
What's going to grow from it? You know, it's like I once looked at that. I looked at the Greek word humus. That's where humble comes from. It's from the
Mhm,
Greek word humus, meaning dirt, belonging to the dirt. I mean, there's so many possibilities in the dirt. Think about
Mhm.
it.
To
What
mhm,
does the
grow.
dirt do, man? It's
Helps you
we're
grow.
all the dirt. That's it.
yeah,
Everything
yeah.
here is if there wasn't any dirt, we'd be swimming.
Mhm.
There's a very real possibility that the
That's
human race and every other species on this planet are being employed by dirt, um, to do its work. Grass, in particular, grass might actually be our
Mhm.
employer at this point. If you really look at the structure of our society, and if you were an alien that beamed in from another galaxy and you looked in and you thought, wow, that's really smart plants there. Like they are in total control of these losers.
they need a massage. Let me get my lawnmower out.
Yeah. Okay, Joey, let's hear from you here.
Well, you
Sorry.
know what? We talked in the past. You're a jingle writer too. Could you
Yeah.
give us one or two or that maybe you've done that we could be familiar with?
Right guard. There's a
Okay,
right
let's hear
guard jingle out there. Really
uh,
rocking hard with the power of right guard.
Dominic Fortuna.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
That there's a Ace Hardware that's never been used, but it's out there. They bought it. That's
That's
it.
all that that's all
Those are
that
two of the
counts.
major ones that you'd know that anybody would know. Anything local would
Right.
be.
Look, if they buy it, I don't care if they use it. You know,
Exactly.
they
Exactly.
paid for it. Hey, you also you have kids ranging in different ages. Are any of them following in your footsteps? Because you have a busy life. I mean, it's an artistic life. Writing a book is an artwork. You know, singing, art, all that stuff, playwriting, directing. This is all artwork. Are any of your kids interested in that? Or are they like, yeah, I'm just going to be an economic person,
The oldest one
businessman?
was at first, you know, he'd like sing the national anthem at games and stuff. He was great. He's got a great
Mhm.
voice. Domenico. I got Domenico, Luciano, and Vincenzo.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
Luciano is my middle boy. He
Those aren't ethnic names at all.
very Irish.
Yeah.
Luciano is he's playing guitar. He's doing great.
Mhm.
Learned it by himself. Great singer. And then my youngest boy, Vinny, he's going to be the little performer. He's going to be the Bruno Mars.
Okay. Well, all of them, really. All of them have a piece of their dad in them to,
Yeah, yeah.
go ahead. All right. So this has nothing to do with writing. Who's going to be in the Super Bowl? What do you think?
Oh God, you can tell that to a guy who just wants nothing to do with football right now because the Detroit Lions just got
I know.
eliminated.
I know. I know. So now it's kind of like, who cares, right?
Philadelphia.
Okay. Oh, you think they're going to win it all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think
All right.
they're the
You heard
sleeper
it
one.
here. You heard it here on the Writers Lounge podcast first.
I
One of my
think
favorite
it's
cities
Josh.
too. I like Philadelphia. Philadelphia.
I think it's Josh Allen's year, man. I think it's Josh Allen's year.
Josh
he's
is king, isn't he though? He's unbelievable, man. That guy's unbelievable.
He's like a freight train right now.
Yeah.
Like there's no brakes on that thing. But also Buffalo's defense is small, but they really get the job done, it seems like. But
we're so butch. I love this.
Yeah, it's a nice compare and contrast, right? It's a nice compare and contrast. This is how we get rid of all the ladies so that we can tell dirty man jokes.
Okay, now let's talk.
Never get rid of the ladies. Never.
The dirty man joke now.
That's the worst thing I've ever said in my life. So right now you got a regular gig on the weekends, right?
I'm going to be leaving here in about 20 minutes, half hour to go to a gig up in Indian River. I got one tonight in Indian River. That's in the, okay. So this is Michigan. Actually, that's Michigan.
Okay.
Looks like that. Okay. I live here.
Ooh.
Up here. Indian River's right here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to be there tonight. And tomorrow I'll be, so I live up here. Tomorrow I'll be over here in Frankfort, Michigan.
And does everybody have like 8 inches of snow like you, or?
No, you see, it's weird because if you get into Michigan, like what happens here is we get lake effect snow like they do in Erie, and like in Pennsylvania and stuff like that. The lakes are still warm. If you get a northwest wind and it comes down along Lake Michigan, it blows over Lake Michigan, lifts up all that warm water, and then dumps it on land. I'm right in line with that. Lake Michigan is just right over there.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, no, the touring life. Yeah, I did it in Germany for a while. There was a really good concert pianist, and he knew these guys at this piano bar, and he wanted to do a Billy Joel show. And I think I was the only guy he knew who spoke English. And like this was like in Berlin, right? And so it's like tourist central, so you have to do a show in English. And so, but he knew my girlfriend, and so I ended up doing like Billy Joel, but all over Saxony and everything in Germany for a while. And yeah, I just remember how grueling it was.
Touring can be painful.
Yeah, until I got used to it. It was a regular cycle though, like it was the same places all the time, so it's a little easier than like a new place every day. But it was painful until I got used to it. And then I talked to stand-up comedians that I know, and they say the same thing. They're like, "Oh, it's just awful." But all the casinos down the East Coast, and I go, all the casinos towards Vegas, like this, right?
I had a tendency. Look, I never really hung around with anybody in the cast when I tour. I don't. I stay really to myself. If once we're at work, of course I'm friendly and we're all together on it. But I like when I'm on tour. Like I've been on tour many times in major cities, small cities, major cities, around the world. I'll always find the most local freaking coffee shop I can find and hang out and shoot the shit.
Yeah, if you want to learn about a place, you have to ditch the pretension, right?
Because when especially for one of my shows, I was the opening act. Like I did like a comedy act for him ahead of time. It's Vince Fontaine. I want to know everything about your town. I want to know everything about what's going on. So it made a little more sense. So there are ways to buffer the tour life, but you will never buffer your relationship. If you go on tour, be ready to have many divorces. They just don't. That's why you see a lot of these major guys bring their wives on tour, or women bring their husbands on tour. It's just, it's so grueling, and you're away for so long, and it takes up so much of you that if you don't realize that you need to have your relationship with you, you're in trouble.
Yeah. It might be that only certain relationships are built for it. Like only certain combinations of people where it can actually work. I think you'd have to have a scenario where neither person is super selfish, right? Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
most relationships have a selfish person in them. One of the
Well,
two is a little more selfish.
well, it's about like if I'm so damn busy that and you're so damn busy, that's fine.
Mm,
But if
yeah.
one of us is so damn busy, the other one's at home taking care of the dogs, the kids, the cats, the house, the cars,
Chickens.
Mundane.
the chickens, whatever, I mean, it doesn't work. That doesn't work.
No,
No.
that's mundane. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I think we don't want to take up too much of your time, Dominic, and you got things to do, and there's a lot of snow to deal with. So, I
Mhm.
suppose we'll move on to the last question, which will be, what can you pick a quote? What's your favorite quote, or one that you've read recently, or whatever? And we can give you a minute to do that. I can do
Man,
mine, and Joe can do his.
I know what it is,
Okay.
and it's been one of those things that I use often, and lately I've been using it a lot. So whenever I come into a situation and I know that I absolutely can't change it, or it's one of those situations that I'm not going to change it, I say, now at this point, the pain is inevitable and the suffering is optional. That means I can either end this now, chop this finger off with an axe because it's got to go, or I can sit here for a month with a butter knife. Suffering's optional in this part. So that's one of my favorite quotes. When I know that something's done, whether it be a relationship, a job, a vehicle, a house, whatever it might be, a person, place, or thing. When I know it's done, it's like, okay, this is over. It's painful. I'm not going to sit here and suffer over it. I'm not going to like let it linger for months. It's done.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my favorite characters from Joe Abercrombie, Logan Nine Fingers. His is the simplest. It's not so much a quote as like a mantra in those books. And he says it's better to do it than live with the fear of it. That's
That's
but
Barney in my book. Barney in my book
Mhm.
talks about that.
Mhm.
Yeah. But I'm gonna go with a Robert Pirsig quote here. The truth knocks on the door, and you say, "Go away, I'm looking for the truth." And so the truth goes away, puzzled. Robert Pirsig.
Deep.
Joey, you go ahead, buddy.
That
All right,
just busted the pond.
I'm going to end with this quote from Dominic Fortuna's book, Walk Slowly with Purpose. You can buy it
Nice.
on Amazon. It says, "That's when I decided I would live life fully human, fully alive. I would become my own search. I was the experience, the experiment. All of my travels and relationships would be the teacher, and I the pupil." Ooh. Dominic
Thanks, brother.
Fortuna on Amazon.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, no
You guys are
problem.
great. Love you guys.
All
Yeah,
right, we
you
love
too,
you too,
man.
man. That was
Let's
great.
do it again when you have certainly like well, at some point anyway. But if you have something that you need promoted, you wanted to spread the word about, or just have some, an interview to be on your profile about it or whatever, let us know. Reach out. We got
Yeah,
the
you know what
time
would
for
be
you.
fun? Maybe one of these times at one of my gigs, we can go live. You guys can be there with me. I got
Sure.
one place the bar owner is really cool. We'll like do a little bit, and you can ask a few questions to the audience, something like that. Maybe we can do something like that. That'd be fun.
Ooh, that would be.
Maybe bring some people and let them know we're doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We'll put that in the to be read category.
Right
All
on.
right.
The TBR.
Right. All right.
Podcasts have TBRs now. It's a thing because Stone
Thank,
Cold said so.
thank you again, Dominic, for your time. You
Yeah,
have a
thanks a
Thank
lot,
you,
buddy.
wonderful
both of you
night.
gentlemen. I appreciate you. This was a nice little afternoon setting. I appreciate your time spent with me. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, hopefully the first of many.
Right on.
Amen.
Thank you,
Ciao.
everybody out there, for hanging with us. Peace.
Ciao, senora.
Ciao, ciao. Fa bravo, stai tendo.
Oh, my goodness.
See you guys.
See ya.
All right. There we go.
All right. I think that went well.
And I'm hitting stop.
Oh, we're still recording shit. Sorry.
Bingo.
I think that went well.